Recording started. Here we go. Lance?
Is this on?
Thanks.
Is this on?
I think so.
Okay.
Say something.
Hello.
Yeah, sound like you're on.
Works for me. My name is Lance Lindbloom. I am a BLM contractor specializing in Pinyon, Juniper restoration projects. First of all, I'd like to have a disclaimer. This presentation is going to be pretty much of a layman's version. I am not a woodland expert or a forester. These are things that I have observed and seen over the last 12 years. I think Darren had my speech. What was he exactly wanting me to talk about? What works? Well, if I went with that topic, this would be pretty short. So I had to add a few other things in this Juniper Harvesting 101. And the reason why it's stressing junipers is junipers have been our problem as far as a contractor handling, cutting the markets for the junipers. The pinyons haven't given us near as much problem. So this is going to be a little bit of a history of what I've seen in the junipers. So I want to give a little bit of a background of where I've been and what I've seen. My formal education, as Darren had said, was at Montana State University in Bozeman, Montana. A degree in range management and also in animal science. If you aren't familiar with Bozeman, it's bobcats. A couple weeks ago, they came down here and kind of thrashed on the utes. So, I think that was maybe my fantasy football score I was hoping for, but it was nice to see the Utes beat a Division II team, though. We were in Montana for about 10 years. We had an opportunity to go to Nebraska and manage a medium to large size commercial Angus ranch, about 1,200 head on 15,000 acres of deeded ground. And I say deeded, but everything in Nebraska is deeded. It was a ranch that not only was cattle, but had a strong emphasis on wildlife. And one of the reasons why I was hired was my grazing background. So off to Nebraska we went. What does Nebraska have? Well, they have a lot of corn, a football team, and they have a lot of these little plants right here. And this is what really got me started in this whole woody biomass utilization or trying to find a solution or market for these types of trees. This is an eastern red cedar trees. This field right here is 5 years post-haying. Traditionally, this field had been hayed forever. It's a sub-irrigated sandy loam section, and within 5 years, those trees were that size. So a very aggressive plant in that scenario or in that environment. These posts are, right, they're a little shorter than Utah, but they're probably 42 inches tall. So this is what got us started, or me started in, and it was by far our biggest challenge on range management in Nebraska was this plant. So we looked at different methods of how to control it. You're going to see a theme of fire. I think fire is a good tool, whether you're burning them in piles or prescribed burning, or if you can get it and burn them for energy. The two methods here just was basically bulldozing and piling them. This is a Lawson aerator used a lot more extensively down in the southeast and also in Mesquite. Both of those types of methods were pretty expensive, even when diesel was cheap. This is a large rotary mower. It worked good on the smaller trees. That's a 15-foot mower. It could mow, up to a 5-inch, 6-inch in diameter tree. Another method, or another tool we used was fire. Even though I am not really fond of speaking in front of people, I was the first president of this Niobrara Valley Prescribed Fire Association and a founding member. Our goal was to put fire on the ground and educate the public in that region about the advantages of using fire as a tool when the trees were at a small size. But we still had the issues of the larger trees, the ones that were full canopy cover. It would be what we would consider here phase 3, and we just couldn't get fire safely to go through those types of stands. The solution or method that was most cost effective was using compact skid steer loaders. There's multiple reasons there. I'm not going to go through all of them, but probably one of the main reasons is the lower investment. We're looking at We're looking at low market value that dictated that we had to come up with a fairly cheap way of handling these trees. The skid steers are a low investment cost compared to other forestry type equipment. And we had the advantages with the small type of equipment, being able to get into hardwood stands and take out the eastern red cedars without damaging the hardwoods. Some of you might be thinking, why are we talking about junipers? I'm glad you asked. This is the range of the eastern red cedar, the Rocky Mountain juniper, western juniper, and what we're dealing with here, the Utah juniper. A large portion of this country has native range for these types of trees, and they grow there very well. And a lot of this part of the country is fighting or battling and spending a lot of money controlling these trees. They're knocking them down, they're burning them, and the desire or want of trying to find a market for this type of material is what created our business. This is just some layman's what I see on the juniper species. They are native to the landscape. We need to realize these are not weed species. They're not invaders. In range, they would be considered an increaser. They will outcompete vegetation with the removal of fire. We've been over this a lot, but in the Midwest, it's just very dramatic when you take fire out how aggressive these plants can be. And I think we'll see that in a lot of different situations here out west. Hard to handle. We're going to probably go over that more on some of the equipment. Little or no market value. My wife would not let me put worthless, but right now we're working on the market value. And what's surprising about that is when you look at pinyons and junipers is the high BTU. They have a high energy value. We just have not come up with a market for them. So, about 4 years ago, our business started, Bloomin Ranch Services. It was a non-4-letter word of calling a cow Bloomin instead of, and when our kids started mimicking what I said. So that's where the Bloomin came from. And Ranch Service because we specialize in helping ranchers on different woody species projects. This is in South Dakota. It mimics a little bit of what we saw in Nebraska. Fairly flat. Missouri River's down in here. Little town Pickstown up here. We were doing a project. This skid steer right here rolled 4 times down this hill. So a lot of the steep drainages, 40+% when you start dropping off the edges. So that desire or want and trying to find projects that were doing something with the product is what led us here to Utah. In 2009, August, I came down here and looked at the Nevershine Hollow project. We were awarded that contract in September, and we moved down here in December. 10 minutes, okay. Our second project we had was Hill Springs. We received that project in May of 2010. They were both stewardship projects. They both are biomass utilization or biomass removal projects. The Nevershine Hollow is an IDIQ, which means it has the ability to go on in distance. Right now we are on the 4th task order. First field day, Darren alluded to a little bit on this, was created for the need to find a different way of handling the material. When I bid on the project, we had an outfit that was going to grind all the material. That market faded up and dried up, so now we were trying to find a different way to handle or process the biomass. I could not get a company to come out and demonstrate and show me what it would do on this material. To do that, we needed to facilitate a couple companies and a crowd, more of a buying audience for them. So that was the first field day was in October of 2010. It was from the first call I made until the field day itself was about a 6-week window. So it was put together very quickly. And we had a lot of help from the BLM, USU Extension, and UBRG, and other folks too. This company right here is what made it happen. CBI, I think they're based out of New Hampshire or Maine, but they were the first company that committed to come out to here to Utah, no matter if anybody else came. If they had not come out, this probably would have never gone. CBI said that they thought this was in its infancy in the West, and they wanted to be on the front seat, front door. This is a grinder here from Moorbark. This picture right here is the largest grinder we had out there. Was 1,050 horsepower from Vermeer, a little over $1 million for that grinder. We had a firewood processor, multi-tech, which was also, it came out for the second field day. And if you're unfamiliar with this trailer right here, it's a Stinger steer. Came out of Western Trailers out of Boise, Idaho. Really, really neat folks came down here. And what this truck does is anywhere this tractor drives, the rear end, the rear wheels steer. It will go back where you can take a pickup. Very maneuverable. So we had a lot of interest and a lot of people after the first field day talking about wanting to put another one on. So for some crazy reason, we decided to do it again in June of 2011. When we started preparing for it, we were a lot more organized. Scott Bale was very instrumental in putting some structure. We actually had a steering committee, and UBRG was very active in it, and along with USU Extension Service. When we were working to put together the second field day, at the same time, Bob Rummer was applying for a grant to do Pinyon or equipment research on Pinyon Juniper. And they were able to receive that grant, and with that grant was some funding for promoting this field day. Part of the promotion, even though they're from the University of Montana, and Brian Kearns, they brought down a biomass gasifier. And it was neat to be able to show that we could knock them down, process them, and use them all in the same process. This was a biomass gasifier, which put chips in, energy comes out, and they could do that right out in the field. So it was really neat to see them be able to do that. And a couple other highlights was a bio baler that came from Canada, was part of the trials, and also Fecon. They were part of the second. There was a total of 3 Forest Service equipment trials: the bio baler, Fecon, and Ponce. We also had a different way of using the material other than chipping it. Was Wood-Mizer came out and milled it, and Multitech was again out with a firewood processor. Multitech is pretty excited about the potential for that market for them in Utah. This wood right here is Rocky Mountain Juniper. Although it's not on our project, it's a lot prettier than this ugly stuff right here, which is a Utah Juniper. Bobcat was involved in the 2010 and 2011 field days, and they've been very supportive of the field days and this type of forestry. Dymax was involved in the second field day, 2011, and in the field trial with the shear, did all the felling. Dymax is a company I've been involved with for 10 years, and they've been great to work with. They're one of those companies that really stand behind their equipment. This is a 20-inch shear. Cycle time on it from wide open to closed is 10 seconds. The Forest Service also did a cost analysis on using skid steers for felling. And when they were timing me, I was almost 200 trees an hour with that skid steer and shear. Vermeer, Rocky Mountain Vermeer has supported both field days, and it's been great to have local companies supporting the field day. They brought a 450 horsepower whole tree chipper the second field day. The bio baler was the first trial that went right after the demonstration or field day. It was done on state ground adjacent to our project area. It was on phase 1 and phase 2 type juniper stands. We really didn't have or don't have any phase 1, probably not very much phase 2 on our project area. So they did about 30 acres and netted about 50 bales. Those bales right now are up at INL, and they are pelletizing them and testing them. Hopefully we can co-fire them. The tractor, I just got to do one comment. This is the most expensive. You always think of John Deere as an expensive tractor. This is a German-built tractor, the most expensive in the world. They do a lot of forestry work with tractors in Europe, and you can tell it's designed for that. You look underneath that tractor, there's nothing exposed. And I won't talk any more about it. This was a really neat video. The second trial was with Fecon. They brought out, for the field day, they brought out a 500 horsepower mobile chipper. That one was coming from Arkansas, kind of on a roundabout way back to Texas. The distributor, the owner, not the owner, it's the distributor or who owned it, allowed it to come out for the field day, but preferred that we didn't stay for the trial. It didn't stay for the trial. It's a 500 horsepower. It was designed to do this type of work. It has 3 powerful rollers that we were able to grab the trees, the pinyon or the juniper trees, and be able to process them. The machine that we were able to bring out was a 365 horsepower four-wheeled forwarder. We did about 12 acres of phase 3. That material has gone to up in INL for testing and also to Texas. Ponce was the last trial. We just concluded that at the end of September. This is a 8-wheeled, 18-ton forwarder. This is kind of the same philosophy we have with shears, is just keep it simple, stupid. This is all they were doing is being able to smash trees into a wagon like that or bunks and pull it down the hill. One of the things that was neat about this trial was what we found out on tons per acre. This was a thicker stand of trees, and we had thought we were probably around 12 tons. The Forest Service was weighing trees as we were doing this, and their calculations were coming up 20 to 24 tons per acre. Just a short plug on the field days. We've had over 400, I think 450 people from 18 states, Canada, China, and Washington, D.C., if you want to count them. And quite a bit of, $4.5 million is, when you talk about equipment, is not a whole lot, but it's still a pretty good chunk of money. When you add the trials in it, in this one area in southern Utah around Beaver, we're over $5 million with equipment that's been tested in the last year. And a note on those field trial or on those equipment trials, and hats off, is all those equipment companies kind of put their neck on. The Forest Service is grading them, so if they fail, they get a fail. I mean, it's a pass-fail type situation, and they know that going into it, and they still went out there and they still went through the trials. So there's a lot of money has been spent to bring equipment out there, so there is quite a bit of interest in doing something with these type of trees. And since I do drive a white truck without government plates on it, though, my wife says I have to throw in some advertising for the company.